And the more I thought about this, Ron, the timing of this was stunning. You're talking about 10 games into a season with the Steelers in playoff position in between road games in the AFC North. And they made this move that none of us could see coming. None of us could see coming.
Cleveland maybe was the rock bottom for Art.
So
you lose to that team with the third-string quarterback. You scored 10 points. I think he just said maybe this is enough and didn't care much about the timing.
Yeah, but the timing is shocking, not to mention it was the first time in, 82 years that the Steelers have done something like this. It's Benzie's contention that it was Tomlin's decision, not only Tomlin's decision, but that he made it to protect Pickett, that Tomlin sensed the tide turning against Pickett in his own locker room, in the media, among fans, and that he basically did this to protect, insulate Pickett, to send a message to his own players that he believes that Canada's the problem, not the quarterback.
That makes some sense to me. Absolutely makes some sense to me. And I do think that I listened to those comments again after the game and see those wide receivers and see Najee. I think there's definitely been an element of the locker room losing faith in their quarterback. Certainly the fan base and the media have, and I think there's some sense to that. Tomlin, clearly, I mean, he went out of his way to defend him again yesterday, Pickett, but what is he going to do? He can't just say, I'm stuck with this guy. He said, I see his work ethic. You know, that's the number one thing we can say about him is his work ethic. Certainly not the results on the field. And Tomlin's point is, well, there's football justice. Good things happen to those who work maniacally, and Pickett does. So I think there's some truth to that, sure.
But you don't think that Tomlin made the call, so that would kind of blow that theory out of the water, unless you think
he's trying to make the best of it, too. You know, I do think he was consulted on this. I don't think this was just a Art decision. I think they both came to the conclusion that something had to be done, and Tomlin's the head coach. He's going to stand up and say he did it, whether it was 100% him or not. But he's got to spin this the best way he can to protect his quarterback.
Sure, but if Benzie's theory is true, then it was Tomlin making the call first.
Which could be.
And doing it to protect Pickett because he senses the tide turning and he wanted to create a fall guy. Basically.
Yeah, but now Pickett has no shield. I mean, if he continues to struggle,
right,
then who are we going to blame?
Tomlin.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are blaming Pickett.
Tomlin would gladly take the blame. You know, like he said, he's been in not his first rodeo in 17 years.
Well, it's his offensive philosophy that they're executing, right?
You would think. He's the head coach.
Yeah, I mean, yes, of course it's his offensive philosophy. So are we buying that Tomlin made the call or Rooney?
I'm leaning to think that it was a joint decision, maybe instigated by Rooney. He said, hey, Mike, we got to do something here. And Mike said, yeah, I think you're right. It is time. I could have seen it happen that way. Or
that would
could it be the other way around? Could Tomlin have gone hard? You know, they both consulted on this.
Sure, it would just be a hell of a coincidence for both of them to have the same thought on the same day.
Did you watch the game on Sunday?
I watched the last 25 games under Matt Canada.
But this one was,
I watched the last 45 games under Matt Canada.
When was the last time they were beaten by a third-string guy when they scored 10 points?
I'd have to look at who they were beaten by. Weren't they beaten by a rookie earlier this year?
Yeah, but that was a pretty good rookie in C.J. Stroud.
No, he's good, yeah. You're right.
That's better than the average bear.
That's a very happy way to look at this.
I'm just suggesting, Joe, that maybe they just both realized it can't get any worse than this. This is rock
Well, it took them, if that's the case, it took them way too long to realize that.
There's no doubt about that.
I tend to think that either Art pushed it or it came strongly from one or the other. I have to believe. And the timing, again, is stunning. We're sitting here in the middle of 2 road games in the AFC North, 10 games into a season, you know?
Well, I guess you care more about who made the decision than I did.
Yeah, because if it was Tomlin.
All I care about is the decision was made, and they have a chance.
You don't care who made it?
Not really.
No? Okay. If it was Tomlin, then Benz's theory it has a way more weight. Because if it was Tomlin, then it was absolutely, or at least possibly, him protecting Pickett.
How about him wanting to see better results?
If it was him. What happened to him 40 games ago?
Well, again, Joe, they hit the rock bottom. Some people decide 2 days ago, 5 days ago, a month ago.
It doesn't matter who did it. Then what do we want to see change and what's prioritized?
We talked about it a little
bit.
I want to see them.
I'm throwing it out there for people.
I want to see it open up a little more. I want to see.
But you don't think Pickett's good. So what would be the sense of opening up the game
I want to find out for sure.
You're prioritizing that over winning.
I didn't say that at all.
It's that by definition you are.
I think it can be both. I think they can let him play a little more and still win a game and still find out about him. If they have him come out chucking it 50 times on Sunday.
Like Stefanski did with the other guy?
Yeah, they're probably not going to win. They're probably not going to win. And I want to see him win.
I want to see them decide and find out once and for all if this kid can play. And to me, that's priority number one. And if that means that I have to sacrifice
What about Cam Hayward? What about T.J. Watt? What about guys who are busting their ass and they're getting along in their career and they want to win? They want to win. They want to have their best chance to get to a playoffs now. I think you can try to do it both ways. Yeah, it's a tough line to walk. I'm just not saying have him throw it 50 times.
Well,
but
what's
have
the
him
number
take a
for
chance
you?
then.
If you don't think he's good, but you want to add risk to his game, then you're prioritizing his development.
How about down the middle a little bit? That's all. Throw it down the middle. And again, there's been guys open that he's missed.
Yeah.
So I got to figure out, can he figure it out? He's got a fresh start now with a new coordinator. I don't imagine the offense is going to change play-wise, but they can change the approach a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, what did you tell Hayward and those guys last year when Tomlin put Pickett in the game? With no work with the people that he was going to be on the field with, just threw him into the middle of a game.
Well, that was last
Wasn't
year.
that prioritizing the future over maybe winning right now?
They didn't necessarily see what they wanted to see from Trubisky at that point. The offense hadn't done much with him.
412-928-9370, 928-9370. What do you want to see change with this Steelers offense? And by the way, is this a good arrangement? Is this a good arrangement, Ron, to have one guy designing your offense and another guy calling plays?
I'm not sure how it works with two guys. I'd rather have one guy. But I see, when Penn State fired their guy last week, they have two in charge too. I don't know how that works. I heard him say Faulkner's going to head up putting the game plan together, and then once the game plan is in, Sully will call the plays. I guess I can see that, but I'd rather have one guy in charge.
To me, it's kind of like having two quarterbacks. If you have two, you have none.
Right.
If you have two, if I'm the guy who's putting together the scheme for the week, then I want to be the guy who executes it on Sunday and call the plays and make the adjustments.
Me too.
And I don't know if this is a great arrangement. Of course, then it'll be another excuse for Pickett if it doesn't work. I think it's a little bit unrealistic, too, to think that all of a sudden in week one without Canada that everything's going to change.
Yeah, I do, too. It's the same plays. Now, the different order of calling them may change, but it's the same playbook. You're not going to put in a lot of new stuff at this point of the season.
Exactly. But you can do it. You can do a lot differently, though. One is play action. One is play action. There's Tomlin up on that screen. And by the way, the Steelers' defensive players have had chances to win playoff games, and they failed. Didn't the Browns put 48 on them one day?
Yeah, they sure did.
At least 41.
41 after Pouncey's snap still hasn't landed.
So this is a tough situation right now. It really is. Where's that baby, Ron? Here?
Right outside here. We're at Bowser Chevrolet, Studio B in Monroeville.
412-928-9370. Would you prioritize Kenny Pickett's career arc, his development, over winning a game or two here? Do you have to do that to find out about him? Or do you think that that's the best path toward winning anyway? Trey Essex, let him call his own shots. Let him come out in the no huddle and be incredibly aggressive. Do you agree with that? Folsey, what do you want to see change? What do you think could look different in this offense?
Well, if assistant OC Folsey was joining Eddie Faulkner and Mike Sullivan, this is what I'd start with at least. I want to see these swing and screen passes be cut down by at least 25%, maybe up to 50%. because that seems like it's more than 50% of their offense. I'm sick of seeing those passes go 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and then you've got to fight to get positive yardage. I'm done with those. Cut those by at least 25%. I would say get the ball to Jaylen Warren more, get him close to 2 times the carries as Najee Harris, because Jaylen Warren honestly looks just as good as any other running back in the league right now with what he's doing. And I would also scheme Pickens as much as I can one-on-one and get him close to 10 targets per game, as close as I can get to that number. Then the other 2 you guys have already mentioned. One is the play action, and then the other is somehow, some way, sit Deontay Johnson and Kenny Pickett down in a room. If it takes 5 hours, however long it needs to take, to say, what the blank is the problem between you two, and let's get on the same page here so we don't have these miscommunications week after week after week.
Yeah, that's become embarrassing, really.
Yes, this is its third. Deontay's a proven veteran. Pickett's well into his second year. It's inexcusable. It is.
Even Trubisky had to say those two need to get on the same page.
Yes, he did.
I'm still trying to figure out why he was talking the other day, but he was.
I am too.
The other reason, Ron, why I think it's important to know who made this call is if it was foisted upon Tomlin against his best wishes, then to me that factors into his future.
That does.
Because that would be the second time that
I can see that side of it. But I don't think foisted on him is the right word here. I just think it was a meeting of the minds after that debacle in Cleveland.
It might have been. I think
the BA thing was foisted upon him.
Yeah. Well, why would Tomlin all of a sudden, after all this time and all this ineptitude, decide this was the week?
Eventually he hit rock bottom no matter what you're doing. And I guess they decided that was it. Could they have decided it after last year? Sure.
How about at the bye week?
Sure. They could have done it at the bye week.
By the bye week.
Yep.